Welcome everyone to the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. My name is Ayla Azim, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm an intern with Campus Pride. For those who don't know, Campus Pride is a leading national nonprofit that empowers student leaders and campus groups working to create LGBTQ+ inclusive and equitable college campuses and environments. Learn more at campuspride.org. Today, I will be interviewing Montclair State University for the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. This series is all about what today's campuses offer today's LGBTQ+ students, our diverse gender and sexuality spectrum. We will highlight colleges and universities that are providing LGBTQ+ inclusivity on their campuses and learn more about their programs and policies. Today, I want to introduce to you the representative from Montclair State University now. Thank you so much for meeting with you today for the Campus Pride Spotlight Series. Welcome. Please introduce yourself. Please share with us your name, your pronouns, and your role on campus.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name is Ebony Jackson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Office for Social Justice and Diversity at Montclair State University.
Thank you so much for introduction. You have a 5 out of 5 star rating on the Campus Pride Index at campusprideindex.org, and you have been ranked among the best of the best in terms of LGBTQ+ friendly colleges and universities. So congratulations. To start out, tell us what are some things that are on your campus for LGBTQ+ life, and specifically, what does your campus do for LGBTQ+ students that creates an inclusive space?
Yeah, sure. We're really proud of the 5-star rating that we have, and we continue to strive for inclusiveness, creating an affirming and safe space for our LGBTQ students. And so some of the things that are on our campus for LGBTQ plus life, we have our LGBTQ Center, that is sort of the hub of LGBTQ students' engagement, resources, support, advocacy, and community building. And also for our non-LGBTQ folks, part of our campus, faculty, staff, and students to learn more about the LGBTQ community and how to be an ally and be of support to the community. So from our center, we have, discussion groups, we have some workshops and trainings, and we hold lots of events. We do our events from our office overall, and specifically in the LGBTQ Center, we have some theme weeks that we program around, like Coming Out Week, which is probably one of our biggest theme weeks. During Coming Out Week, we have the Coming Out Monologues, which is sort of modeled after the vagina monologues, where folks share coming out stories of their own or from a script. And it's a really amazing program. Also during Coming Out Week, it's surrounded by Coming Out Day, and we do a really, really, really big event. Last year, we had our 10-year anniversary of the LGBTQ Center, and we celebrated that during Coming Out Week. We also do Transgender Visibility Week and recognize a bunch of different days like Intersex Day of Solidarity, LGBTQ History Month, Pride Month, obviously, we attend New York City Pride and New Jersey Pride events as well, to keep it in the New Jersey family. And we have a blast going to Pride events, and it's folks from all over campus. There are people that I have never seen or met before that participate in these Pride events, and it's really amazing how our community always just comes together in different ways. So those are some specific events that we put on or sponsor from our center. Outside of our center, we connect with Residence Life, and we have Stonewall Suites LGBTQ living community. And we connect with the students that live there and offer them, of course, support, resources, and services, but also Stonewall Suites specific programming to connect them to one another a little better. And I know that some students who have lived in Stonewall, like they're best friends or even partners for a very long time from living in that space or attending some of our discussion groups. Outside of our office and center, our campus community over the years has done a really great job of ensuring that they understand our LGBTQ students and support and advocate for our LGBTQ students, and then issues that are outside of our campus that aren't necessarily like campus related, but say there's some law that's about to be passed or some issue that happened that affects the LGBTQ community. We have a lot of support and a lot of understanding on our campus. And, Montclair State is definitely a community, and we're definitely very connected as a community. So there are other areas on campus that will be doing programming, whether we're collaborating or not. We don't have to have sort of the hold on all LGBTQ things on campus. Absolutely not. It should be a community effort, and it absolutely is at Montclair State. some events that have happened in the past that I have seen that we have supported in just supporting. We weren't necessarily collaborating with them. But, career services may have done a couple of programs on whether you should come out on your resume, or how to do a job interview, or navigating, just looking for jobs, internships or such, being part of the LGBTQ community or identifying as such. The Center for Student Involvement has been such a dynamic area on campus in terms of LGBTQ support for our students, and just providing some of those larger programs that our office wouldn't be able to host. And we collaborate with them all the time. So just two of many, many, many examples. Campus recreation is another area that we collaborate with every year for Celebrate Bisexuality Day or Bisexuality Day. We tie-dye t-shirts in the color of the bi flag and educate our campus community about bisexuality, bi erasure, any issues or history, or just like, here are some celebrities you didn't know are bisexual or under the bi umbrella. So those are some things with LGBTQ plus life. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a lot of stuff. But there's a plethora, and every year, we just keep building and growing on initiatives and support for our students. And so I touched a little bit on the second part of the question about inclusive spaces. So we have the Stonewall Suites living community, where students, it's considered under specialized housing, where there's also maybe some honors housing, or I think it's sustainability housing, I think, as well. We have a couple of specialized housing where folks would just do an extra application for that. But I have found that Stonewall Suites has been a really great resource. We have prospective students who aren't even accepted or applied, but reach out to me, LGBTQ Center or whoever, and it gets directed back to me, asking about Stonewall Suites, because they want to ensure that they have a safer space than maybe mainstream housing, where, this is dedicated or specifically to create safer and inclusive spaces and affirming spaces for our LGBTQ students. So we have Stonewall Suites, we have our discussion groups, as I said before, which are predominantly identity-based. They're also interest-based too. Or, we have a crossover. We used to have an LGBTQ athletes discussion group. Didn't go over so well because our athletes are very busy. And so they would love to have met, but there wasn't time for them to meet with their busy athletic schedule. I really don't know what that looks like. I was not a student athlete, but I know it's busy. So those are just some of the specific inclusive spaces that we have on campus for our LGBTQ students, as well as our center. We're in the middle of a pandemic right now, but if we weren't, the LGBTQ Center is a space that LGBTQ folks and allies are able to come and hang out in the center. We also hold our discussion groups in there as well, and maybe some meetings or something of that nature. But we try to have very, very intentional designated spaces, but with more education with our faculty and staff, especially in the classrooms, trying to make classrooms inclusive, trying to make meeting rooms inclusive, trying to make offices, residence halls all over inclusive, and affirming and supportive of our LGBTQ students is always the goal. And I don't know what every space feels like and looks like, because I can't be everywhere at once, unfortunately. But we're educating folks more and more and more with our safe space training program and LGBTQ 101 workshop that we have. So those are some of the things that we have for LGBTQ life and inclusive spaces.
I really liked what you said regarding the Stonewall Suites. That's a really cool idea and concept.
Yeah, it's we're looking to revamp it too, because with every class of students that come in, their needs are they change and they're different. I am a double alum of Montclair State University, and from my undergraduate career all the way up until now, the students are very different. When I was a student, we had folks coming in who were exploring their identity or learning who they are. And now we have students who figured out who they were back in middle school, and they're looking for more specific resources now. So we have to keep up with their interests, with their needs, and the services that they would need. So we're looking to revamp Stonewall Suites. But again, that's part of always looking to improve and grow.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
so what example can you share that signifies the importance of having a space for LGBTQ plus students?
So I have like two examples, but you said whatever. I'll just answer the question. So it's kind of like not a cop-out answer, but it's very simple. Our LGBTQ Center, I think, would be probably the largest example that signifies that importance of having that space on campus. I've had a number of students who reach out to me. Maybe they're first year students, or maybe they're graduating. Maybe they're grad students who came back and they say, I went to Montclair State because there was an LGBTQ center and my friend went there, my cousin went there, or my neighbor, or whoever, or I know someone that went there and they said that the LGBTQ center was, instrumental in their thrivery, if that's a word, I made it up, at Montclair State University. And I can even attest to it for myself, going from undergrad to now, the LGBTQ Center was so impactful on my growth as a student, as a person, and understanding my own sexuality over the years. And it has, I'm where I am now, and I owe part of that to the LGBTQ Center and the experiences that I've had there. So I think having very visible spaces on campus that are LGBTQ specific, whether it's a resource person, a center, an organization, and we do have, over the years, we've had some LGBTQ student organizations. Right now, we have a Black LGBTQ student organization called Daughter Speaks, which highlights the issues and experiences of Black LGBTQ folks. So having those spaces in multiple areas on campus, I think, is really important. Again, we don't have the hold on LGBTQ anything in our area. We want everyone to be able to create those spaces and, have a hand in that work.
Really good answer again. So may you please tell us more about your campus's LGBTQ plus policies, and how do students feel about such policies?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's the general, we don't discriminate against a bunch of different identities and everything. So we have that, as every public institution does. But we have recently instituted a name policy at our university where students' names will be able to appear, the name that they use will be able to appear on things like ID cards, the class roster for residence hall purposes, and in their email address, or net ID is what we call it. But their email address, the name that they use, will be in their email, and it will pop up when you look for somebody in email. So the name policy made that possible. We didn't have that before, and it was some of our student information systems, or some of the programs that we use, the software. Some places you could change your name, and some you couldn't, and it was just all over the place. And when we got that name policy, when it was, it's happening, we're rolling it out, students were ecstatic. They were excited. They were really happy because, for someone who doesn't have the experience of being misgendered or misnamed often, it's the simplest things of, I'm in the cafeteria and I ordered my food and I have to be called for when it's done. And the name of my ID is not the name I use. And then they call out that name and it's like, well, I guess I gotta go up there. And now, that's just a really, really uncomfortable experience. And that doesn't feel good. And so with that name policy, students were really, really excited about that. Something else that has happened prior to me even being in this position, my predecessor actually put in a lot of work and created the groundwork for this name policy to exist. And he also did some work that rendered our student health insurance plan to include trans-inclusive healthcare. So trans students are able to, get hormones and get certain gender-affirming surgery procedures done, and all those things that are covered under the student health insurance plan. So those are two really, really, really big things that our students just are really happy about having. And I look forward to moving forward. A gender marker policy is something that we're looking toward next. And we're in the state of New Jersey, and New Jersey has done a lot of work around creating safer, more inclusive, and visible, if you will, spaces for LGBTQ folks. And one of them, it just happened, I think, within the last month, that people don't have to put their name in the newspaper when they change their name. And so while folks who are like, oh, whatever, I'm just changing my name, they may not be trans, or they may not experience a lot of misgendering and misnaming in public and private or whatever, having to put your name in the newspaper when you change it, especially when you could be in a very vulnerable position in your transition journey, I mean, it's the newspaper. I mean, I don't know how many people read the actual newspaper, but it's digitized too. So there's that section where all the name changes are. And just that, it's also expensive. Like, you have to pay for that too. So it's sort of, as New Jersey progresses, our campus is also progressing and moving forward and just creating more and more and more affirming and safer spaces for our students. So those are just two of the policies that our campus has implemented within the last several years that have really impacted our students on a dynamic level.
I really like the name policy. That was really cool.
Yeah, man, that was... It was like a saving grace because we didn't have to be all over the place with the names, but the best part of it was that students are identified who they are, you know, for who they are. It's not like, well, you have this name here and that's not the name that's on here, and I called this name. It just saves a world of trouble for everybody.
And thank you again. So in your personal opinion, why do you think the campus feels the need to have resources for LGBTQ plus students?
I mean, marginalized people need resources. It would be great if we lived in a world where everybody got everything they needed, everybody was loved and accepted, and we're all happy and everything, but that's unfortunately not the case. And I find that colleges and universities are sort of I call it like simulated adult life, where, you know, you're sort of navigating, having these responsibilities, but it's also sort of controlled a little bit, or not controlled, but like there's still the adults around, right? And so I think it's really important that our campuses create those safer spaces and provide those resources for our students to thrive and do well in college, and also to be able to progress and grow and learn, and they'll be able to instill those, find their ways to deal with what the outside world is. Because yes, our campuses, I call them like simulated whatevers, but I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. You know, I call them simulated, but our campuses are sort of microcosms of our larger areas, whether it's the state, the county, the world, the country, what have you. And so we do have those instances on campuses where students have a taste of the real world. And in having those resources and spaces on campus, we really are creating that connection for our students to be able to say, you know, I know there are things out there for me. I know there's something that I can rely on, and something that when I need something. But ultimately, you know, our students are paying tuition and they're here to get an education, and in fostering an environment where our students are able to get that education that they're paying for, we have to have resources that help them in that journey, whether it's something as simple as tutoring or something like a name policy, where it's like, you know, everything is set up for me to succeed. And that's ultimately where I work a lot with staff and faculty sometimes, but I'm predominantly with staff on the student affairs side. But that's everybody's goal, is we want to get these students graduated so that they're our future leaders. They're the ones that are going to be making these decisions and doing these things for us. And if we create that environment where they're able to be successful in school and to graduate and to learn what they need to learn, then our world will end up getting better, because we help them be better in the very critical moment of them learning what to do to make the world better. That's a lot of bettering, but you want things to be better. But that's a very, very like long here pointed answer. But ultimately, we need a space for our students to succeed, or we need to create the space for our students to succeed so that they can keep improving our world and our country, city, state, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, that was a really good answer.
Thanks.
So how do students, LGBTQ plus students, get involved on campus? And do you have any active out LGBTQ plus student leaders on campus?
Yes, absolutely. So our LGBTQ students get involved a number of ways. So I can start with my office and then branch out from there. So in our office, we have student volunteers called OSJD ambassadors, and those are my lovely students. It's a volunteer position where some of our students lead our workshops, some of our students lead our discussion groups. We find it really important to have our group facilitators identify with whatever that group is. So if it's Transcending Boundaries, which is our transgender discussion group, the facilitator, we would like them to identify within the trans community, because we're creating that space where trans folks will be able to talk with other trans folks about their experiences, and someone else is understanding how they're feeling and just creating that sense of community. So we have our OSJD ambassadors. They also help with, we have event coordinators as well who help support our initiatives and come up with some of our programming. We also have opportunities for interns and field experience from other areas to come into our office, but that's just our office specifically. We sometimes do like photo campaigns, or it's just like we're doing some fun thing and we need some people to be part of it and just doing that call out. Pride Prom was a really amazing program that we did, where we partnered with other areas that have student volunteers, and to put it back on. It was something that a different student organization did, but they were a little dormant for a while. And our office found that there was a gap in that programming. And so we brought the Pride Prom back, and the students like had a ball. It was amazing. I DJ'd for it as well. So that's one way that students can get involved specifically with our office. There are a number of other ways that students get involved, either volunteer positions or paid positions. We do have work study students that work in our office as well. And so we have, resident assistants in the residence hall. There are students who work in the campus recreation center. We have students who work with the front desk. It could go from administrative work to tutoring. And our LGBTQ students are everywhere. They are definitely our student leaders, leading the campus tours with admissions and everything. And they are students that do interact with our LGBTQ center too. So we have active and out LGBTQ student leaders on campus. And I think that is because our campus has fostered and created this environment where they feel safe and comfortable enough, not only to, succeed academically, but like get involved and get connected and have a stake in their campus and in their school, where it's like, I have a sense of belonging and I have a sense of ownership of how this campus exists and how it thrives and how it moves, and being part of and adding to that community. So those are just a number of ways that our students can get involved on campus.
That was really cool. I really like what you said about students feeling comfortable to be involved with extracurriculars on campus as well, rather than just being there academically.
Yeah, absolutely. And our student organizations, that was something else I didn't mention. We have the Student Government Association and a number of student organizations that fall underneath of there. And then we also have Greek letter organizations as well. And we have LGBTQ senates all throughout those organizations. And Daughter Speaks, the LGBTQ organization that I mentioned earlier, is under the SGA. And that's another way that they can get involved. And the cool thing is they can make their own organizations. And Daughter Speaks, I'm actually their advisor. They've been in existence for maybe going on 2 years now. They created that student organization because the other LGBTQ student organization was sort of dormant. And again, there was a gap. And it was a student, he was an RA, he was a resident assistant who was like, I want to create this space on campus. And he reached out to me about being his advisor and helping him get that together. And now the organization exists and it's doing really well. I'm really proud of them. They're doing an amazing job, especially with the time that we're having, pandemic and everything, but they're doing really great. So there are a number of ways that our campus has created opportunities for our students to get involved. So it can be very, very, very like, I'm an administrative assistant here and I do this job and that's it. Or it's like, you can have complete ownership of something and create something new if you'd like to.
Really good answer again. So how does your campus support LGBTQ plus students across their different intersections of identity?
So from my office, I make it a huge point that everything we do it through a lens of intersectionality. Yes, we are talking about LGBTQ students, but they're not just LGBTQ students. They're disabled, they're people of color, they're, a certain age group. They have all these other identities that they experience in life, and they're navigating life and having all of those experiences. We can't just address one identity without addressing the others. So we make it a point, like whether it's our flyers and we have people on them, or we're talking about, say, intimate partner violence. We're not just talking about heterosexual couples. We're talking about same gender loving couples, we're talking about polyamorous couple or they're not couples if they're polyamorous, but polyamorous relationships, and touching on just making sure that we're touching on all of those things, and also collaborating with different areas and offices, because we don't know everything, we can't be everything, and we aren't everything, but connecting with other areas and connecting with other people help bring in those different experiences and those different perspectives that we would definitely need, that we make sure everybody's included. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that everyone feels included and affirmed in being included in their identities. And so just having that lens. And then also through our programs and our workshops, especially, we have some general ones, like we have a general diversity inclusion workshop. We have a very specific trans 101, LGBTQ 101. We have, cultural appropriation appreciation. And I always just throw in there, this is what intersectionality is, this is what it looks like, and keep this in your mind while we're going through this presentation, because you can't just look at one thing. You have to look at how the person is affected through all of the things. And the things, I mean, identities.
Yeah. Social justice, equality, and equity are constant journeys of progress. So what's on the agenda for your campus within the next 2 to 3 years?
So a couple of things, because right now we're in the middle of the pandemic, and we're trying to move forward and keep things afloat and make sense of everything on Zoom all the time. So the next 2 or 3 years, I think one is clearly to try and bounce back. But other than that, something that I have personally wanted to do, and I've made it one of my goals, is to create a transgender transitioning guide. I've had a number of students come to me asking, where can I get hormones? What is that process like? Who do I talk to? What doctors do I go for this? What is this? Is the health insurance plan covering this? Is it covering that? And some questions, I can look up the health insurance plan, but I'm not trans. I don't know where to get hormones. I don't know what that process would look like personally. And again, going back to talking about how our students know who they are, or a majority of them. I don't want to, give that blanket statement. Everybody knows who they are when they come to college, because not everybody still has that experience. But, they know who they are, and there are students who are looking to start their transition medically in their journey. And so I wanted to gather that information from alumni, students that have already been part of our campus, students that are currently on our campus who maybe are a lot further in their transition journey than others, to get that information, because I will know, like, the student will say, I had this doctor, they were amazing, they were affirming. I had this doctor, they weren't that great, but this is all I had at the time. But just gathering that information to provide that to our students and students to come, and faculty and staff too. Anybody will be able to use it. But I think it's really important to get that information, because it's not easy to find anywhere either. I have a student in front of me, and I'm on Google, and we're just sitting here. They're on Google on their phone. I'm on Google on my computer. And then I'm thinking, well, let me look here. Let me look there. I don't know what this means. And that's not fun. That's not fun. I'm looking to, there's a student who's like, I'm looking to, affirm myself. I'm looking for these hormones. I'm looking to get this surgery. I'm looking for this therapist. I'm looking for this, and this. And I don't necessarily know where it is. And I am a resource on campus, and I need to have those resources. So that's one thing that is definitely on my agenda. Another is the gender marker policy, and making sure that students will be able to have their correct gender in our information systems. It doesn't really appear on like ID cards or anything of that nature, but it does affect students in terms of, living on campus, for example. So those are two major things on the agenda. And of course, always just, keeping up with things that are changing and growing. We have a new pride flag now. They call it the Progress Pride flag. We want to include that when we have coming out week. We have our flag raising, and the flag goes up on the flagpole for the week. And I want to wave that updated flag on our campus, keeping up with the times and everything. That's a really small thing on the agenda. That's super easy to do just by the flag. But those are some things that I am looking personally to have implemented on our campus within the next couple of years.
I really think the gender marker policy is really important.
Yeah, yeah. And again, if you don't have that experience, I mean, but that's what privilege is, right? If you don't have that experience, you don't have to think about it, you won't think about it, and you don't think it's that big of a deal. And that's great if you don't think it's that big of a deal, because then you don't have that issue. But for other folks, it is. And it's like we need to make sure that it's not an issue for anybody, whether they need the gender marker policy or not. It shouldn't be an issue, sort of thing for people. So,
Yeah. So to end our spotlight, what are 3 words that you would use to describe your campus for a prospective LGBTQ plus student?
3 words. So I'm not going to cop out and use our school slogan, which is "It's all here." I'm not going to do that. But those are 3 words. It is all there. 3 words. I want to say 3 words. I'm going to cheat. Life-changing. It's a hyphenated word. So that's my 1. Community. And fun. We have a fun time. We do have a fun time. I think those are 3 words that I can come up with right now. We're a fun community that creates life-changing experiences for people. But yeah, I think those are 3 words that I can think of right now for prospective students. So if you want to have a life-changing, fun experience with a great community, Montclair State is a place to go.
Excellent. Amazing. Please share for those watching on your website to learn more about LGBTQ plus life on your campus. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yes, as well.
Thank you so much. And Campus Pride really appreciates your hard work and continued efforts to create an inclusive space for LGBTQ plus students to learn, live, grow, and thrive at Montclair State University. Your work makes a positive difference in so many lives, and thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again. Thank you for watching the Campus Pride Spotlight series. If you wish to learn more about this campus or any other college or university, you can search for free at the Campus Pride Index online at campusprideindex.org. That's campusprideindex.org. For over 400 plus colleges and universities that have come out as LGBTQ plus friendly. Again, my name is Isla, and thank you so much for watching.